Are we happy with the idea that there are different types of zeros when we're dealing with significant figures? Okay, there are what I like to call leading zeros. And then there are trailing zeros. Trailing zeros. And then there are middle zeros, which are the ones in between. All right, so happy with the idea that a leading zero would be the zeros on the left of any significant figure or any number. Okay, so this would be a leading zero. Would the next one be a leading zero? Yes, the next one would be a leading zero. The next zero would be what type of zero? A middle zero. And so therefore there are how many significant figures in this particular number? 3. Happy with that? Okay. So how about the next one? This first one is a what type of zero? A leading zero, which means that it is not significant. Right? What about the next one? What type of zero is that? A middle zero, which is significant. And then the last one is what type of zero? A trailing zero, which is significant or not significant? Insignificant? No. This is a significant zero. So how many significant figures are there? 4 significant figures. Okay? So let's have a think. Any numbers are significant. Right? Any numbers are significant. That makes sense. Leading zeros are not significant. Middle zeros are significant. And trailing zeros are also significant. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4 significant figures there. So these are significant, these are significant, these are not significant. But trailing zeros, there are different types of trailing zeros, so we'll go talk about that in a moment. All right? So, the next zero, what type of zero is this? This one there. Which one? It's a middle zero, which means it's significant. What about the next one? It's another middle zero, which means it's significant. So how many significant figures are there? How many? 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 significant figures. The next number. The first zero is what type of zero? Leading zeros. Next one is also a leading zero. Next one is also a leading zero. So anything left of a significant figure, any zeros left of a significant figure are leading zeros. And so therefore they are not significant. So how many significant figures there? 2. First zero here is what type of zero? A leading zero on the left of significant figures. The last zero there is what? A trailing zero, because it's on the right of any significant figures. And then how many significant figures are there then? 4. Okay. Now this is where it gets a bit silly. Trailing zeros on the left of decimal place are not significant. So, see here, this is, that's if there's no decimal place. Well, yeah, okay, we'll get to that in a moment. All right, so these two here are trailing zeros, but they're of the kind where they're on the left of the decimal place when there's nothing significant on the other end. So these two here are not significant figures. Okay, if they're not significant figures, how many significant figures are there in this number? 1. 1 significant figure. What type of zeros are these ones here? In the next one? Middle zeros, which means how many significant figures? 4. Now this is a bit silly here. So, this zero here counts as a trailing zero, which is on the right-hand side of a decimal place. Sorry, you guys can't see that, but there you go. Right? So this 0 here counts as a trailing 0 on the right-hand side of the decimal place, which makes it a trailing 0, first of all. Both of these are trailing zeros. But this one is significant. And because that one is significant, that makes this one significant because technically it's a middle 0, but also a trailing 0, right? It's a middle 0 because it's between two significant figures, but it's also a trailing 0, which means that it's also significant. Significant figures are stupid. This is the stupidest rule that I think because, like, in theory, these ones here should be significant, but they're not because of stupid rules. But anyway, so this value here has how many significant figures then? 3. Okay, so I'm going to be going around to each of you, asking you a few questions about significant figures, seeing if you understand it, and then helping you if you don't. So we'll see how that goes. But that's the idea. We have leading zeros, middle zeros, and trailing zeros. But trailing zeros, there are 2 types. We have to get used to being able to read them. In terms of answering a question which asks you, because it will ask you, here's a calculation, report your answer to the correct number of significant figures. How many significant figures should you report it to? No. You should report it to, report answer to the number of significant figures that the value in the question which has the least number of significant figures. Whoops. Yep, sig figs. So, I'm putting this on as a video, so you don't need to take a picture of it. All right? So, let's have an example of what that means. Report your answer to the number of significant figures, to the value of the question that has the lowest number of significant figures. So, here's a number, 20.04. Here's a number, or times like 42, right? So, how many significant figures for the red number? 4. How many significant figures in the blue number? 2. So that will equal something, right? And then you have to give it to 2 significant figures. 2 significant figures. So in your question, you have to look at all the values that you're given. And then you look at them all and you say, which one has the lowest number of significant figures? Whichever has the lowest number of significant figures, that's the number that you report. That's how many significant figures you report your answer to in your calculation. All right? So, just do a quick count, which one's the lowest, and then go through that. Okay, that's it. I'll be going through examples with you